They always get mad when you round them up. You're better off.
Yeah.
Let's wait for 2 more minutes.
Really? How do you pronounce your last name?
McNutt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ignore the second T.
Yeah.
Yes. As if you were sold at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You probably never describe it that way. You know how like
Sold at McDonald's, yeah.
like a McBurger or a McNut.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to buy nuts at McDonald's, it'd be a McNut.
Of course. That only makes sense.
There's so many books in the department everywhere now. All these
Well, we
bookcases.
got a library donation, so that's why.
Yeah.
I can tell you more about it later.
Cool.
If you're interested.
I am.
Or you can read about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip your mic on.
Okay.
All right, Amber, you're up. Big outdoor voice.
Hey, Eli, I'm going to give you a hug real
Hey.
quick. How are you?
Good
Nice
to
to see you. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming.
No problem.
Guys, we're going to start now.
Do it, Amber. Just yell it.
All right, we're going to start now, everyone. All right. So, Eli McNutt is CTO and co-founder of Dreamship and a 2013 GRC graduate. During his time at Cal Poly, he was the UGS pre-press manager and was part of the national prize-winning Phoenix Challenge team. And I'll let him introduce him.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Eli McNutt. I work for Dreamship, like she said, CTO and co-founder, and today I'm going to talk about how to build a print-on-demand business, or kind of just like what I've been working on for the last year and a half. Cool, so just a little background about me. Like was said, I graduated Cal Poly GRC 2013 and was a packaging minor. Was really involved with UGS while I was here, was pre-press manager my senior year, did Phoenix Challenge my junior and senior year. We won my junior year and then got some more awards my senior year, but I think that AR stuff that we built was the coolest thing there. And then I also was involved with a bunch of different things in the department, did like some printed electronics research and stuff like that. But overall was pretty involved and really enjoyed my time here. After school, I decided I did not want to do anything related to printing. So I moved to San Francisco and started working for an app agency called West Agile Labs. I was there for about 2 years, and when I left, I was lead product designer. I had built a team of designers to help startups, specifically mostly like business school grads, help design and create their first, the tech side of their application for startups. We had an offshore team of about 120 different people, like in India and Ukraine. And I did a lot of product development there and really kind of like expanded my UI UX skills. From there, I moved to a company called Funders Club, which was an online venture capital firm. And was lead designer, but did a lot of different things like marketing design and UI UX, product design, product development, a lot of front end work, basically just like wearing a ton of different hats because it was a startup, early stage startup. And over the time there, we invested in when I was there, we invested in about 150 different early stage startups. And I really got to see just the nitty gritty of what it's like to start a company and try to grow it. And that was when, summer 2018 came around a year and a half ago, and I was like, I think I can do this myself. So me and 2 other friends started a company called Dreamship, and yeah, so before I kind of dive into what Dreamship is, I want to just kind of talk about a couple different concepts, industry concepts that you might know about, you might not fully know about, but First one I want to talk about is drop shipping. Drop shipping is a fulfillment method where essentially as a business you don't own any inventory. Like if I own an online e-commerce shop, like I'll create some ads, sell you the shiny backpack. But like once you buy that from my store, like I don't own this in a warehouse anywhere. I go to a third-party supplier that I'm working with, buy that backpack, and then have that supplier ship it directly to you. How this normally works is you, as a consumer, see an ad on Facebook, buy something, it takes 3 weeks to get shipped from China, it shows up, and it's a piece of crap. But it's a really, really cool, like, just concept and fulfillment method, and when done right, it's a really powerful tool, and I'll talk about later. Print on demand is essentially drop shipping, but there's another step involved, and that's actually customizing the product. So you can think of t-shirts, I have a bunch of samples in here I'll show later, backpacks, hats, wall art, anything that can kind of be customized and white labeled for a business, that's print on demand. So why would you build a print on demand business? So if I'm like an individual, like why would I try to start a print on demand business where I'm like using the print on demand backend, like to power my business? The first is like low capital risk. So with drop shipping and print on demand, it has just blown up over the past 5 or 6 years because it's just so cheap to get started. Like I can sell a bunch of t-shirts that I've designed. I don't have to buy a printer. I don't have to hire a bunch of employees and train them on how to use a printing press. I don't have to go buy hundreds of blank stock and keep in a warehouse. I don't have to own a warehouse. I don't have to have employees like packing up like each individual order that comes in and ship it out to a customer. So really all I have to do is like sit behind my computer, design something, and all of a sudden I can start selling it to anyone in the world. I kind of talked about this outsourced logistics. I just don't have to deal with any of like a lot of the hard stuff essentially. I mean, it's all hard, like running a business is hard, everything, but the logistics side of things, like physical goods, running a business that like takes physical goods and ships them to customers is really hard. A really big thing with print on demand is the ability to like easily test new products. So I don't have to actually manufacture anything in the print on demand world before I go try to sell it to a customer. So I no longer have to spend like R&D money essentially, or like spend hours and hours trying to think of like what the new hot trend is going to be before I sell something. I can just design it and go test to see whether it sells or not and let the market decide. It's also like on the other end really easy to scale sales. So like I can test a bunch of different stuff, and if one thing like sells really well, you have like a lot of businesses that like will sell, you know, 10 or 20 shirts or something, right? And like all of a sudden something hits super hard on a Facebook ad and they sell 10,000 over a weekend. So like if you're like a single individual trying to fulfill 10,000 orders in a weekend, you're gonna have a hard time. And the last thing is customer personalization. So with our business, over 50% of the orders that we fulfill are personalized to the end customer. And this is just a massive trend you probably like already know about, but like customers want stuff personalized to themselves, and this is not possible with traditional manufacturing techniques. Cool, so if you guys in this room want to like start a print on demand like store tomorrow, there are a ton of options, right? There's a ton of different companies, platforms, like you can create a Shopify app, download another like print on demand app. There's different platforms. But at the end of the day, like this isn't really new, or it's new-ish, right? Like print on demand really sprung up in around 2012, 2013. So I graduated just about the time that like Teespring like was founded and started really pushing the trend of print on demand. And so I guess it is relatively new, but like it has matured pretty fast because there's a lot of money to be made in it. So let's talk about the rise of internet marketers. You guys have probably seen a bunch of like ads for products like this, right? Hyper personalized products. And you might be thinking like, I would never buy that. This is one actually that I found the other day and it made me laugh super hard because I was like, I would never buy that blanket. But someone had designed it with my last name on it, right? And like create an ad. I don't think I would be marketed like both of these because I don't think I'm a July mom, but like this wouldn't be possible without print on demand, right? Like, no one is gonna go create and like make a blanket that says McNutt family lifetime member on it and then go try to sell it to me. But they can try to sell it to me and then go make it. The other really important thing about like the internet marketer is the print on demand was really fueled by Facebook as well and their ad platform. So in the past, if you wanted to run online ads, you could use like Google or something like that, but you're still spending about $20,000 minimum of ad spend for some type of ad campaign and platform. Facebook was like, you can spend $3 and sell whatever you want. And so really what that's led to is like the movement from this user of just like, I'm an individual designer, I've created some shop with like 5 or 10 t-shirts that I'm trying to sell, to legitimate enterprises and businesses that are like, this is a brand new way for us to make a lot of money by doing some really cool things. So the first thing that they're doing is like they're testing and scaling products. Some of the businesses we're working with are creating hundreds to 300 new products a day that they're then creating a Facebook ad for all of them, seeing which ones sell. 90% of those will never sell once, right? So if you're a designer in here, you don't like your work getting used, you probably don't want to be doing this. But they're just testing, right? At the end of the day, they're just like data scientists trying out a bunch of different things and letting the market decide what's going to sell instead of like trying to determine for the consumer. So how this cycle works, right, is like you have maybe like a week cycle. It's usually shorter, about 3 days. You create 100 products. You're constantly pushing the same amount of ad dollars every single day, but it's like split evenly between 100 products. The next day you change that to like 10 products, the same amount of money, push and scale that, and then the next day you push it all behind one single product. So you have this huge like log kind of curve, like long tail of maybe less than 1% of your products selling thousands and thousands, and then the majority of them never selling at all. It's really interesting. So thinking about, just so you kind of like wrap your heads around like the money side of things too, because that always helps me. So a cost breakdown for like one of these internet marketers. So let's say they sell a t-shirt for $30. They're spending $15 of that $30 they made on ads to sell that one product, which is a lot if you think about it, 50% on ads essentially. They're spending about $10 on the supplier side, so they'd be paying us $10 to make the t-shirt, fulfill it to a customer, and they're making about $5. So anywhere from like 10 to 20% margins is kind of normal in this business. On the t-shirts and like a lot of these like kind of lower end products, they sell a bunch more, margins on smaller. You have stuff like this that we sell, like acrylic wall art and stuff like this. Someone can sell this for like $80 and make way more margin, but you're selling like way less. Cool, so let's see. So 2014, 2015 was like the rise of internet marketers. In 2018, 19 was basically the fall. So like this was like a huge buildup of a ton of people making a lot of money, like individuals making millions of dollars. You've probably seen a lot of scam YouTube videos, or like you can make $1 million in a weekend. Some people did that, not a lot, but there were a couple people that did that. Most of those people don't sell products anymore. They just sell YouTube videos and kind of scam people. But it's interesting, right? But what happened? So, like I was saying earlier, this whole entire like business model, especially for internet marketers, is driven by ads, right? Facebook has dramatically increased the cost of ads over the last 2 years. And with that, like just profits have shrunk a ton. So a lot of these like businesses, right? It's not just an individual making money on the side. They're businesses with 5, 10, upwards to 50 people running these POD companies are like, we need to cut costs. And so a lot of these companies that I talked about, right? They're in the United States, they're in Australia, Europe. That's where their manufacturing facilities are, close to the customer. And instead they're like, hey, we're also doing drop shipping stuff, right? Like with a lot of these Chinese suppliers, let's just do all of our POD stuff in China too. Basically these Chinese suppliers, like what happened is the customers who used to be getting products in 5 days, 7 days are now getting stuff in 3-4 weeks. And there's just low quality products. Like there's times where a printer is literally printing a shirt, throwing it in a plastic bag before it's even fully dried. So like when you open it up, it smells toxic, really bad. Not to say that there aren't like high quality Chinese suppliers, but a lot of the stuff is cutting costs, right? Like you could, instead of buying a t-shirt from a US manufacturer for $10, buy it for $5 from China. And yeah, like at the end of the day, like the low quality products and slow shipping just meant unhappy customers. The other thing is like, there's huge amounts of IP infringement. So just a lot of people just basically stealing designs. Like you've seen like knockoff Gucci stuff, like on a Hanes t-shirt on Amazon probably, like it's all over the place. But yeah, it's really bad. And a lot of the IP infringement and the unhappy customers basically meant that the platforms, right? Like your ad platforms, Facebook and Google, and your payment providers, like Stripe and PayPal, just started yanking away access to their tech platform. So no one could buy ads, no one could get paid out on money. And yeah, things started kind of to collapse. So that's kind of the state we're in right now with print on demand, especially like in the internet marketer space. So we were kind of like, how do we fix this industry essentially? So first thing, we were like, we need high quality products and fast ship times because that's gonna make happy customers. We need happy customers and like zero IP infringement to keep the platforms happy, like our tech overlords in the world, because if Facebook or PayPal doesn't sign off on what you're doing, like you're not gonna be able to run a startup in today's world essentially, especially like on the e-commerce side that relies on ads. Yeah, and then like happy customers, happy platforms, and most importantly, competitive costs, like just make happy businesses. So all stakeholders, like how do we keep them happy? Cool, so any questions real quick about like industry or stuff like that? If I went too fast or anything's missing? All right, so what do we actually do? Like what does Dreamship do? Dreamship is a B2B print-on-demand supply network and technology partner. So lots of jargon right there, so let's kind of like break these things down. Like the B2B side. For those of you guys who don't know, B2B stands for business to business. This means like we're not really trying to sell to that individual designer that's trying to sell some t-shirts on the side. We're working with experienced internet marketers who have been in this game for a decently long time. These are teams of upwards to 50 people and like actually have specialized skill sets. So they have designers on their teams, engineers, customer service reps, managers, all sorts of people. And our top like businesses that we're working with are selling over $10 million worth of like POD products a year through their shops. So you can kind of like see the size and scale of these businesses we're working with. And it's really important to like to label this as the B2B side because the needs of an individual designer are totally different than the needs of a larger business. These businesses we're working with have a lot of established brands and sub-brands. So some of our top merchants actually have like 5 or 10 separate shops and stores that are sub-branded to different niche target audiences that they've discovered through this testing and scaling of individual products. So it's really interesting, right? Like they'll create 100 designs, see that one of the shops that we do, it's called LGBT unicorns. So it's just LGBT unicorn type designs, and like that's just a crazy niche like that you would never think would exist in the world, but like they've found that it existed through testing products and ads and have built an entire store around it. Cool, so diving into like where are these businesses that we're working with? They actually all, like most of them live in Vietnam. So this is like kind of backwards, and I have to explain it multiple times to everyone I talk to, but our customers are in Vietnam and like they're not our suppliers. We don't do any supply manufacturing in Vietnam. We do it in the United States, in Europe, Australia. The businesses that are purchasing products from us and are essentially creating the ads and selling them to you live in Vietnam. There's over 10,000 of them. They're spending millions and millions of dollars on ads, and they're doing about $1 billion in sales, like I think estimated that we think in drop shipping and POD. And developing nations are really interesting like for the POD space because they have a lot of especially like Vietnam, very US focused country. They have a lot of skilled labor in the design side. So it's really hard as a designer in the United States to compete with the prices. And you essentially have these design farms that we're working with of really, really skilled talent, designing and creating products and selling them to the United States. So yeah, the other, so we decided to target Vietnam first as our market. And we also have an advantage there because one of our co-founders is Vietnamese. And she's built a really massive community of sellers over the last years, working at different companies in the POD space and dropshipping space. And it's just a totally underserved market. So diving into the next thing, print-on-demand supply network. So what does that mean? We don't actually manufacture anything. Like Dreamship doesn't own any printing presses. We don't own any warehouses. We build partnerships with different printers, suppliers, and manufacturers around the world. And I think right now we have about 15 or 20 different locations around the world that we do fulfillment from. If we go back, some of those other companies that I showed you earlier, a lot of them are vertically integrated in the space. So they may own a website, a platform that you sign up on, you create a design, there's a storefront that a customer comes on that they own, and the customer buys it from them, and they own the printing, the manufacturing, everything. We did not want to do that at all. And the main reason, well, first is because we just didn't have the money. It's really capital intensive. But the other reason is the flexibility, a couple different things. The flexibility to scale and move production on demand. So we have seen we've been selling products for maybe about the last 8 months, and we've seen just where the end customers move kind of all over the place depending on different trends. And so what we're doing is we're constantly piping orders to the closest suppliers to get the fastest ship time to the end customer. When we're talking about ship times, we're essentially competing with Amazon. I think everyone's competing with Amazon when it comes to customer mindset of how long it takes for a product to get to you. So on average, most of our stuff is arriving in about 5 business days. So it's ordered, and then in 5 days, it's manufactured, made, shipped to the end customer, and shown to them. That is relatively fast for the industry, I think. But still, we need to get this down lower and lower and lower to essentially where you can't tell the difference between something is getting manufactured and sent to you versus picked from a warehouse. Cool. The other thing is just our ability to shop for lower costs. So we're constantly going to different suppliers and just kind of competing against each other. We can get t-shirts for 30 cents cheaper over here. What can you do for us? Cool. And I think one of the biggest things is just a wider product catalog. So I'll just show you some of these products, right? Should I pass these around or?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. You guys just pass these around, whatever. So this is an acrylic print. These are all kind of from the same manufacturer, right? Framed canvas wall art, framed canvas prints. This in and of itself is its own, these are digitally printed essentially on a different substrates, and then in their warehouses, right, they're doing a lot of assembly for the final product. So you can't just take a t-shirt like this, right? This is this still sells the most, but for t-shirts, they're the easiest thing to print because you just put it into a press, do for a black t-shirt, right? Print a white layer of ink, print this color ink, let it dry, pull it out, done. No assembly, no manufacturing or anything. But as we start thinking about how do we push the limits of what is a POD product, we can do some really cool things. So this is a backpack, for example, right? Where we're printing straps, doing sewing and assembling on it. We are doing some really cool things with metal art that we're testing out right now. So this is printed on metal and die cut, and Middle America loves this type of stuff for their lawns. This blankets, for example, this year were huge. People loved blankets. I could only find a test print, so but people love these blankets.
Wait, I'd buy that.
Yeah. Going back to specialized processes, right? this is, right, this is like known as cut and sew. So this is like dye sub onto like cloth, and then it's actually cut and sewn. So you can't just like print directly onto this. There's human labor involved with actually manufacturing, specialized process techniques. Just, yeah, a lot of work to be done, and not every supplier can do everything.
So are those leggings a one-off?
Yeah, those are all everything's one-off that we do. These are like headphones, for example, right? So we're working with people that are doing electronics. These are cool because they're essentially like printed on these plates and then just slapped on afterwards. But this company, for example, right, like all their products are like they've built from the ground up to do one-off manufacturing. And yeah, we're partnering with them. Like this type of stuff, the higher quality products don't sell as much in the internet marketer space, but I'll talk about more later, like in the promotional space, other types of industries, it's huge. Just some basic stuff. Mugs are huge. Like they're kind of boring, but like everyone likes mugs. Like phone cases. These are like speakers, for example. These are actually like really solid speaker manufacturer too, so it's cool. Yeah, so like all over, right? Like we're not just thinking about how do you print stuff on a t-shirt, it's like how do you basically manufacture any consumer good in a one-off manufacturing process and customize it. Oh yeah, Christmas ornaments, like people went crazy for Christmas ornaments this year, and we need to find a new supplier for those because those aren't great quality. Cool. All right, the other kind of big thing about like this print-on-demand supply network is like trying to make it, as we grow like bigger and bigger, like trying to make it self-healing essentially. So for example, this year during Thanksgiving week, like right before Black Friday, the biggest like sales day of the year, our main like manufacturer that was doing about 80% of our supplying just went bankrupt and just said, hey, we're not doing any more printing for you guys forever. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, and so we had a bunch of backups, and like in 2 days, we were able to reroute all of our orders, and like no one really knew the difference. So, and I think that's like kind of normal, right? Like printing companies go out of business. Like it's super capital intensive, and like, it's just tough, right? Like printing is tough. So like we've tried to build just a way to like continuously move on and not get hit by those roadblocks. Cool, and the final thing is like this technology partner side. So just some like basics, right? If like the current world in a lot of this still today is I have a Shopify shop, I have 100 orders for the day, I print out a CSV of all those orders, email it over to my supplier, they say, yeah, we can work on all this stuff, and then like they send back a CSV with some tracking numbers in it. And yeah, like we're trying to automate all of that away. Like these human processes are outdated and we can solve this stuff with tech. So the first thing like to any of this stuff is like the product creation side. We've built a custom designer like really focused on bulk product creation. So a lot of our merchants, like I said earlier, are creating hundreds of products a day. How do we allow them to essentially upload lots and lots of artwork that they're creating through, and it's important too, right? These are creatives that are using Photoshop and Illustrator for the design side of things. Like what they need is an ability to upload this artwork fast and build product mocks of this stuff. So, right, this is just an example of like our design tool, and then like we built some really cool like mock-up generation tools as well to like try to make the product feel as realistic as possible before it's ever been made. So once a product's created through our system, this just gets pushed up to, right now, our Shopify app. We're about to fully launch our API to allow like order from anywhere, but really we focused a lot on our order management system. How do we take orders and consume orders in from different marketplaces really easily and ship them out to our suppliers as easy as possible without humans having to deal with any of this stuff, right? Like we're talking about thousands and thousands of orders a day where like we have one person maybe managing it all because 1% or something get into a weird state. Cool. Getting back to IP risk detection. we've done a lot of work building IP detection tools. So all artwork that kind of comes in through our system before we're printing it, we're throwing it through a bunch of different like pipelines that are checking for like image matching. Like we're doing stuff where we're trying to like pull out information from it. So like right over here we have like Baby Yoda and BMW. I don't know who designs this stuff, but this came through our platform. Right, so it's like, oh, this is BMW probably, this is probably Yoda, and we're like, okay, flag that immediately because Disney will sue us, and we just don't manufacture this stuff. And this is the stuff that keeps the platforms really happy. The Googles and the PayPals, the Shopifys, and like they trust us because we're not printing this IP stuff. Sorry. And then the last thing is like our platform partnerships. So we've invested a lot of time specifically trying to solve the needs of Vietnam right now, but what's come out of that is some core partnerships with companies like Shopify, Google, and PayPal. So this was at our last event a couple months ago, my co-founder Bo with those 4 companies I just mentioned. And we did a joint conference on basically trying to like grow this industry in Southeast Asia. And we have a partnership right now with Google where if you're in this industry right now and live in Vietnam, you have to like do all manufacturing through us if you want to run any Google ads. So like we're kind of controlling that ad, like that top layer ad funnel, which is like great for our business. But it's only happened through just like building this trust of like focusing on high quality products, focusing on the end customer, not printing IP stuff, all these types of things. Cool, so what's next for like us specifically, Dreamship? We're gonna like continually go after just global internet marketers. It's like $12+ billion market. Basically, we're like targeting these like $1 million plus a year businesses and just taking over like the existing market. And then we've also dedicated a bunch of resources this year to going after the promotional products industry. So this is a massive industry, like $20+ billion. This is all your promotional goods. This is like company swag, like employee stuff, marketing materials, right? Like all of this is very traditional manufacturing. It's a process where I email someone, say, hey, I would love some pens with my logo on it. They go, here's a catalog. And then I email back, I'm interested in these 3. And they send back an Excel sheet. Like if you buy 50 or more, it's this much, 100 more, this much. And it's gonna take 4 weeks to print all this stuff and manufacture and get it to you. And we're like, we can make one of these in 5 days for you. And it's essentially the same cost up to, right? Like there are still cost benefits to maybe print, like manufacturing 100, 200 of something, but most people don't need 100 or 200 or something anymore. Like they want a personalized one-off good, and that's what we're focused on. Cool, so that's about it. You guys have any questions? Yeah. Yeah, so when we first started, we actually didn't want to do anything related to print on demand. We wanted to like go into dropshipping space and kind of solve like the time between it took from getting something from China into the United States. So what we try to do is like build a 3PL network in the United States where we'd basically pre-buy a bunch of stuff from China and drop ship it from warehouses in Texas. While we were trying to sell that to people that we knew, like in Vietnam, these markets, everyone's like, we don't want that. Like, we actually are just having a problem with ads. So at that point, we kind of pivoted the business and created a Facebook ad partner. And we built like the beginnings of the IP detection tools. And so we were basically reselling Facebook ad accounts, but checking all the ads for IP risk. This was like November 2018. And we did like $1 million of like ad spend, and then Facebook shut us down. And they're like, it doesn't matter about the IP, like the underlying products getting sold to our customers suck. Like if you guys wanna like sell ads, you basically like need to like sell good products. And we're like, okay, like let's solve the bad products like slow shipping stuff. And then we finally started getting the POD. And like we launched the POD like side of our business in February of 2019. So it's kind of a lot of like ups and downs, but mostly just listening to like what customers wanted.
I'm the customer. Am I going to use your design software?
No. So at the end of the day, like an end customer has no idea who we are. Like we're behind the scenes, like hidden. We are working solely with these businesses that like own their own brands essentially and are the only touch point between their customers. Even though we're shipping them the product, it still looks like it's coming from whoever that brand is.
So like Imprint is who we use for all of our flags, let's say.
Yeah.
So Imprint then would use your
Yes.
interface.
To design products, yeah, and sell them to you.
Where's Vietnam coming?
Vietnam are like the internet market. There's like a team of 50 people in Vietnam that are coming up with 100 designs a day, creating ads online and selling them to customers. And like you're buying something from someone in Vietnam essentially, but we're just the ones on the back end, like manufacturing and fulfilling it. Where are you? Where am I? Like located? In San Francisco. San Francisco. Yeah. We have 15 people kind of spread out in different countries.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Like our core like product team is in San Francisco, but we have like salespeople in Vietnam and Australia right now actually. Like customer service people in Vietnam as well. And different contractors kind of all over the place.
You're saying that all of these companies in Vietnam, if they want to use Google at all for advertising, they must go through you.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
But quality is your
Yeah, I think it's just like kind of focusing.
goal of your business is quality and fast shipping.
At the end of the day, like what we need to do to like survive as a business, right, is just like fulfill high quality products really fast that don't have IP on them. Like if you just do that, then like it's easy. It sounds easy, but like it's hard. Like here and there, but it is easy at other times too. Like because
T-shirts though,
I would say 70% of the stuff we sell are t-shirts still. T-shirts sell a lot. Like it's still a huge part of the business, but like a lot of these products, right, that I showed like aren't available through a lot of these other platforms because like they've become so vertically integrated. They don't have the manufacturing processes to create any of this stuff. So like we'll go after like a supplier, right, on the metal like die cut side where like all they do is just that and like they have really specialized processes for that. And we'll just say, all right, like you're our supplier for this, like let's go. And it's just not possible anywhere else. And it, the other thing too, right, is like we try to differentiate ourselves through like the Google ad partnerships and stuff for why some of these bigger businesses would go through us instead of going directly to the supplier. Like that's kind of where we have to build up the tech side and the partnership side. Because technically like our biggest customer could probably go directly to one of our suppliers and like they would work with them. We just make life easier for everybody though. So we'd take an image, throw it through a bunch of like Google Vision, like machine learning stuff, which essentially pulls out like matching images and a bunch of these like related like entity tags. And then we do some, what? Entity tag? It's like, yeah. So it's like, this is probably like this Yoda entity, essentially. And then we build like a risk on it. And then we actually have humans that are checking a lot of like the high risk stuff.
So BMW, you're not worried about, but Yoda, you are.
BMW is still bad, but Yoda is like crazy right now. Disney is cracking down super hard on Baby Yoda, everywhere. Yeah, don't want to mess with Disney. Yeah, Disney itself is just like an IP company essentially, right? Like everything they do is like, that's their like bread and butter of making money. So they sue a lot of people in that industry. Does Disney? No. That would be awesome though. Like we'll try. We're not going after like the Disneys right now because like they're much more involved with like their own supplies and stuff like that. We're going after like the internet marketer side of the world, which have transformed into kind of like these mini niche brands that just like are all over the world, right? So United States like businesses essentially aren't as much of a problem because like they have access to Facebook and Google very easily. Like they speak English. They don't have a problem setting up like Stripe, for example, like a payment processor, so they can actually like accept money from consumers and get paid out. Companies like Vietnam are completely blocked off from a lot of like just the underlying tech resources needed to run an internet business. So like we just make it super easy to run an internet business for them, and then they use us to fulfill all the products. And then like the goal though is to like get really, really good at this printing and supply side of things where like it just makes sense for everyone to kind of move over.
Does your revenue occur at the point an order is made?
Yeah, so we basically charge a business like right when they request an order from us. Mm-hmm. So there's like no lag time for us like having to get paid out, which is pretty nice for our cash flow.
So what prepared you for your role that you did? How'd you get
Cool. Yeah, so kind of all over. I think a lot of the experience like from like the jobs that I started at were really focused around just software development, really on the design side of things at first, but like just being around like an engineering team and working with engineering teams, I was like, I can do this, I think. So I tried, and then it was like just kind of self-taught on the engineering side. And mostly though, I mean, I think it's just a lot of like, all of those are just tools, right? The engineering side is just a tool, design's just a tool. Trying to really understand like the problem that you're trying to solve is the biggest thing. So like go deep into the problem and like ask questions and figure it out. And like, right, when we first launched like the POD side, like we had no tech built yet. Like we said it was automated, but it was really just us accepting, like going on to these like shops, building our own CSVs, emailing them over to suppliers and like getting these things fulfilled, pretending like it was automated by tech until we could like validate the business and then start building the tech around it. What? CSV? No, it's like just like an Excel sheet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
So when somebody in Vietnam reached out to you and said, hi, I need this money, you send it, or you need this ad, how can you help us? And then you provide the solution to them?
Yeah, so it's a little, the sales process is a little bit longer. It takes about 3 to 6 months for us to like fully onboard these biggest customers because they're already doing millions of dollars of sales, right, a year. And it takes a while to build trust that like we can take over this manufacturing process for them. So mostly it's just kind of like a long sales process. We've actually built a lot of like a large community around Vietnam. We go over there and do a lot of events over there. Like I showed earlier, like partnered with different companies. And we like run a Facebook group, for example. Like everyone in Vietnam uses Facebook, which is another huge reason why like they're so ingrained into this, like the Facebook ad world side versus like most of the rest of Asia using like WeChat and Weibo and stuff like that, like totally disconnected markets. But yeah, like we run a Facebook group there with like 3,000 merchants that are really active where they're just talking to each other of like how they're running their businesses. We provide tips. Like we try to be like just a player in the ecosystem and not like this full platform where it's all or nothing, right? So we'll start with businesses where we'll just migrate like one product over, for example, like mugs. They'll be like, hey, like we like want to test you guys out. We'll start selling mugs with you. And so we start selling mugs with them. We do that really, really well. And they say, okay, we'll move our t-shirt business over to you. We'll move our wall art business over and our blankets and all this other stuff. So we kind of take it like one product at a time with these people. And we actually turn away smaller people because like if someone's not doing at least 100K of sales a year, it's not really worth our time to like build the partnership at this stage for us. We just don't have the resources.
Where do you see your company in 2 years?
In 2 years. So our big focus right now is expanding our product catalog. So right now we offer about like 40 different types of products. Like as we dive into the promotional industry a lot more, we're trying to bring on about like 500-ish different products that you can like bring on like with these different supply partners. So a lot of it is just expanding what's worked for us so far, new suppliers, new products, and then like just capturing more of the internet marketer space and really diving into the promotional space, which is just kind of untapped right now from the POD side. Yeah, so these are things like we're talking about like trying to build a Salesforce plugin so that like if one of your customers hits X amount, like so I'm just a regular like tech business inside of Salesforce, my CRM tool, so it's where I manage all my customers. If a customer hits X amount of revenue with me in a year, it just like triggers an API call that goes to our system, and like we print a mug on it with both their logos that says like thank you for being a loyal customer. Like just this automated like where you don't even have to think about it, and just things are getting manufactured, printed and fulfilled like without anyone like worrying about anything. Like that's kind of what we want to move to.
Do you plan on expanding outside of Vietnam, and if so, how?
Yeah, so right now we're starting that right now, actually in Australia. There's like a lot of internet marketers in Australia. We just hired some cool salespeople. I really like them. And they're pushing out that side of the industry. It's just like, we'll see how it goes. Like right now we're really trying to hone in on just capturing the rest of the Vietnamese market. But yeah, I think over time, like, so we've started a couple different things, right? Like we actually brought on a new like influencer like segment of the market. So these like Instagram influencers, right? We created like a new sustainable product line. So like all recycled t-shirts and stuff, and recyclable packaging. So it's a little bit more expensive, but like we are like starting to sell to that world, right? Where like these influencers just like have a lot of eyes. It's essentially free ad space, and they're trying to push products and build brands around like themselves. Oh.
So did you mention that you are running on Google Cloud?
Just like our IP stuff is run through Google services right now.
Like, can you
Yeah.
talk about automating and that kind of stuff, like maybe using the cloud platforms to do kind of like AI or ML and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so that stuff is like on like the machine learning side would just be building like a machine learning pipeline with them. We can talk afterwards and I can get more technical if you want to, but.
So advice for students that are graduating GRC that want to get into this technology side of POD.
Yeah, if you want to, I mean, I would just, so much of like the tech side of things for me was self-taught, and it was really just trying to like solve a problem and like using tech again as a tool. Just like doing a bunch of, hello world tutorials for learning a new programming language and stuff doesn't really get you anywhere. Like think about just a single problem that you have in your life and just try to automate it. Like, right, like sending a text message, right, to your boyfriend every morning, like build a script to automate that. It's super easy, and like as you do those things, you kind of think through the process of like, why does this happen all the time? Like who benefits? How can I use tech to automate this? Like all over, and then just like kind of expands from there. Like everything is just start with a single problem, and just from there it's going to balloon out of control. So yeah, it's fun. Cool.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, if you guys could just bring everything up if you have anything.